Good evening, everyone. Learning chapter 11 in Igeres Hatshuva for the 28th day of Tammuz. This chapter guides one in the balance of two seemingly contradictory emotions: utter humility, stemming from being cognizant of one's sins, and joy, celebrating one's renewed connection with God. It also reassures the penitent Baal Tshuva of the certainty of God's forgiveness. So the Alter Rebbe stated in the previous chapter that since prayer is an expression of Tshuva law, higher level of return, it must be preceded by the humility and the contrition of Tshuva Tato, the low level of return. This is attained by spiritual stock-taking, by arousing divine compassion upon one's soul, in keeping with the Mishnaic dictum that one should embark on worship only in an earnest frame of mind, which is explained by Rashi to mean humility. At the same time, the Alter Rebbe continued, we are also taught that one should embark on worship only with joy. So joy and humility are two opposite emotions. How do they work together? How do you have them both? How can you even jump from one to the other? That's really the question of today. Since nowadays, most people are incapable of instantly turning their hearts from one extreme to the other, the Alter Rebbe advised that the time for the humbled heart of Tshuva Tato be advanced to the Tikkun Chatzois of the preceding midnight, so that when the time for prayer arrives, the worshipper will be in a state of joy. In the present chapter, the Alter Rebbe goes on to say that difficulties notwithstanding, it is possible for the heart to simultaneously harbor two opposite emotions: the anguish of soul of tshuva, tshuva tato, the low level of tshuva, and the joy that immediately precedes and accompanies prayer. This subject, simultaneously harboring contrite humility in the heart, the state of teshuva tato, the low level of tshuva, is explained, and the above mentioned contrary emotion of joy in God that is also necessary for the service of prayer. You need to have both humility and joy. Has already been discussed in Likutei Amorim at the end of chapter 34. The Alter Rebbe explained there that these two emotions are not mutually exclusive, since one's contriteness is occasioned by his body and animal soul, while his joy stems from his divine soul and the godly spark that it houses. So each one is stemming from a different source. We have the contriteness is occasioned by his body, the animal soul, and the joy is stemming from the godly soul, from the godly spark. Having the two distinct causes, the two emotions can lodge together, coming from two different places. Alter Rebbe goes on to quote the Zohar to this effect. This is stated in the Zohar. Weeping is lodged in one side of my heart, and joy is lodged in the other side of my heart. So even you can weep and joy at the same time, simultaneously. The statement was made by Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon, hearing from his father Kabbalistic insights into the destruction of the Holy Temple. He was at one end the same at the same time heartbroken for his renewed recognition of the enormity of the destruction, and joyful to be inducted into the mysteries of the Torah. Inducted into the mysteries of Torah.
That's what it says.
We thus see from the Zohar that two opposite emotions can coexist when they result from the two different causes. So on one hand, he is happy that he is let in on the secret, on the mysteries of the Torah, but on the other hand, the content is of what he is hearing about the destruction brought about heartbrokenness.
Yeah, he's heartbroken that the destruction of the temple, but yet he's excited because he's learning the Zohar or getting.
Joined to this is faith and confidence, the heart being firm and certain in God, that he delights in kindness, and is gracious and merciful and abundantly forgiving the instant one entreats him for forgiveness and atonement. The moment you are asking, entreating Hashem for forgiveness, he is forgiving right away. That's why we say in the davening, the Rebbe is going to speak about it soon. Like, how can you say bracha if you're not sure that you're going to get it? Can you say now if there's no apple in front of you, or whatever? You can't say it and hope that an apple is going to just land from the sky.
Right.
So how can you say Baruch Atah Hashem Chanam Abba Yisleach every day in Shemona Esrei if you're not sure that Hashem will forgive you?
Right.
So you can't really say the bracha. So it's going to tell you that you can say the bracha because Hashem is forgiving you immediately. That's what he meant. That's what it means over here. And abundantly forgiving the instant one entreats him for forgiveness. As it is written, this is a statement from Tehillim, as it is written, in accordance with your abounding compassion, erase my transgressions, kabeseni, tahareni, or cleanse me, purify me, or erase all my sins. Bli shum safek usfeik sfeika ba'olam, the worshipper offers supplications such as the above, without the finest vestige of doubt. For this reason, in every Shemoneh Esrei, the moment we plead, pardon us, we conclude, blessed are you, O God, gracious one, who pardons abundantly. Now we are forbidden to recite a blessing of doubtful obligation for fear that it be pronounced in vain. You're not allowed to pronounce God's name in vain, so therefore, Sofek brachos, when you have a doubt in a bracha, we don't say the bracha. Whether even the slightest doubt as to whether God forgives the sinner, we would never have been commanded to recite the above blessing. The answer is that there is no doubt whatsoever in this case. Hashem for sure will forgive you. Why? Because you asked. For we have asked, pardon us, forgive us. It says, so if Hashem forgives us, why there's no Mashiach? Where's Mashiach?
Yeah.
Hashem forgave us. So he says, because we do the sin right after. Continue to sin. It says, furthermore, were we not to repeat our transgressions, we would be immediately redeemed. In accordance with the blessing, we recite immediately afterwards, blessed are you Hashem, who redeems Israel. As the order of his blessings indicates, forgiveness leads to redemption. If not for our relapses, so the human being also, if somebody bothered you, upset you, or humiliated you, and he asks for forgiveness, you need to forgive him right away. Halachically. Even by human standards, the certainty of pardon is legitimate. For one must forgive as soon as he is asked for pardon.
Yeah.
It says he must not cruelly withhold his forgiveness. Even if one were to cut off his hand. The Gemara at the end of chapter 8 in Baba Kama says If you asked somebody 3 times for forgiveness and did not forgive you, you need not apologize further. When King David asked for the Gibeonites to forgive King Shaul, who had killed the people, they refused to do so. David didn't do it. Shaul did it, but he asked, Shaul HaMelech did it. He asked the Gibeonites for forgiveness.
He was already dead already.
So, and they didn't want.
Right. No, I think it was that they hung up they caught some of his family and they hung them up. And then
If one has no forgiveness, this 3 times has been rebuffed and has been rebuffed. You need not to apologize further. And then he says, so David asked, they didn't want, would kill the people, and they refused to do so. David decreed that they should not enter the congregation of God. They would never be allowed to convert and thereby join the Jewish people who are merciful. As we have learned in Yevamos, the end of chapter 8. As a divine trait, how much more certain is it? Nay, infinitely more certain that forgiveness is swift. So the takeaway from today's essay: have full faith and trust in God, that when you ask for forgiveness, He will forgive you. Now you can go and be happy. Welcome to you.
No, I think